Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
LeBron and Luka begin their Laker legacy. Also, the New York Jets are ready to pick up the pieces from the failed Aaron Rodgers experiment. And could the best landing spot for him be the Tennessee Titans?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Luka Doncic played his first game as a Los Angeles Laker on Monday. Locked On Lakers had the latest.
This is a really, really fun time for the Lakers with Luka Doncic now officially on the court.
He makes his debut for the Lakers on Monday at the Crypt against the Jazz. Andy, we've been waiting, Andy, for about a week since the Lakers announced this incredibly stunning trade for the actual time when Doncic would make his debut, put on the uniform, get on the floor, get past that calf injury.
It's so caught up by the Mark Williams trade getting rescinded, you almost forget, oh yeah, Luka Doncic is on this team.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Maybe not today, but certainly this week. The news around Mark Williams, the Hornets apparently exploring options, according to Shams at ESPN, to dispute the physical. So that saga is not done yet. But the news, obviously, for tonight.
Dalton Connect's just sitting on the bench in a hoodie. No idea where he's going to be any day from now. This is bizarre.
So the news, though, obviously the big event of the evening in the 132-113 win over the Jazz at the Crypt on Monday is the debut of Luka Doncic. It was a major event, not just across basketball, certainly across LA. Every seat in the arena has a 77 jersey put on it. LeBron put one on before the game. Full house basically there watching him come out for warm-ups beforehand. A palpable energy inside the arena. And when he was introduced last, it should be noted, he got the final introduction. The Lakers fans are clearly excited to see what's coming with this pairing. And just the event of Luka Doncic was everything that the Lakers hoped it would be on the first night.
Well, first of all, you can tell that they are very serious about impressing Luka. They want to make sure that he feels welcome and that this is the franchise he wants to play for the rest of his life, because they spelled Doncic correctly on the back of the shirts that they gave out to the crowd, because as of late, that is not a given for some of the things the Lakers have done, whether you're talking about Kobe's statue, the typos.
It was a little off on those Coop jerseys.
I mean, they really dotted the I's and crossed the T's for Luka. I mean, this has been building up, like you said, for like a week. And, the Lakers are an international global brand. Luka is an international global superstar. He took questions in 3 different languages after the game tonight, English, Spanish, and Slovenian. And the excitement, you got to go back, honestly, since LeBron arrived.
Oh, for sure.
This, as big of the trade for AD was, you absolutely knew this was coming, because LeBron and Clutch and Anthony Davis had spent the entire season before that very publicly agitating for AD to become a Laker. So it was so fait accompli, but also too, with all sincere respect to Anthony Davis, who is an incredible player, he's not at the level of Luka. So this is just, Rob Pelinka, I believe, described it as seismic when he was talking about during the introductory press conference for Luka. Oh, yeah. That's not an understatement, man. This
is a generational trade. This sort of thing in different sports, this level of trade, this the the magnitude of a trade like this happens once every, 15, 20, 25 years, whatever it might be. So, and obviously there is, I mean, the level of speculation and curiosity of what it would look like to put LeBron James and Luka Doncic on the floor together, two of the best passers in the league at any size. And, and then when you start to factor in how big these guys are and the vision that they have and the capabilities that these guys have as passers, what would it look like to put the two of them on the floor at the same time? And then, throw in a guy like Austin Reeves, who himself is an excellent passer. And suddenly the Lakers have the potential for a level of ball movement that has not been seen. The guys in the pregame show, Worthy and
Byron Scott,
I think, was in studio on Monday, talked about it and I think they're right. It's like having two Magic Johnsons on the floor. Like, that is essentially what the Lakers have. And you saw it quickly. In this game, they just the level of ball movement and the quality of the shot creation. I understand they were playing the Utah Jazz, but these are guys who have not really even practiced together, and the Lakers were generating so many good looks, passing up good shots for great shots, sometimes even overpassing to the point. And then there was the thing that I really noticed, Andy, was the ability for between Luka and LeBron to extend all 24 seconds and still generate a good shot, where the Lakers before would get to about 16 and you could start feeling the panic about where is the shot going to come from. That's just not going to be the case. They're going to be able to find a shot through 24 seconds with these guys on the floor.
Stay up to date on the LA Lakers all year by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Lakers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, the Jets are going to tear it all down. Before we get to that, Anthony Davis is already looking at a prolonged absence from the Mavs. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I miss my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. I'm looking tonight at Grizzlies Suns. The Grizzlies favored on the road amid all the trade drama in Phoenix, but they're laying just 2 points. Yes, thank you very much. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Anthony Davis is set to miss multiple weeks with an adductor strain, according to reports. Davis left Saturday's win over the Houston Rockets with just over a minute and a half left in the third quarter after recording 26 points, 16 rebounds, 7 assists, and 3 blocks in 31 minutes. Now, he downplayed concerns about the injury postgame, saying he was very confident it was not a significant setback. Davis sat out the previous 5 games, his final 3 with the Lakers and first 2 with the Mavs, because of an abdominal strain. In the latest episode of Sports Ownership Succession, a 3-person arbitration panel has sided with the 2 prospective Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx owners, Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez, in a sales contract dispute against current owner Glenn Taylor. This allows them to continue the process to become the majority ownership group. The ruling sets up a high-stakes vote among fellow NBA owners to decide control of the franchise. The Board of Governors vote is expected to be timed with the close of sale and final payments. The arbitrators determined Taylor had violated terms of the sales agreement when he announced last March 28th that the prospective buyers had missed a deadline for a $600 million payment that would have secured an 80% majority control of the team. On the court, the Wolves' trip to Cleveland was less than successful.
The Timberwolves fell to the Cavs on Monday night despite a third consecutive 40-plus point game from Anthony Edwards. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Daily Locked On Wolves podcast. This one was pretty ugly from the start for the Timberwolves. Ant was great. He had 44 points. He was 8 of 15 on three-point attempts, a league leader still in three-pointers made. Nobody else came to the party. No one else scored more than 13 points for the Wolves. And they were down 18-1 in the first quarter. They had 1 point at the 4.5-minute mark. In fact, the Wolves only made 2 field goals, 2 shots from the floor in the first quarter of this game. They were down 30-12 at the end of the first frame, and they never got closer than 14 points. In the third quarter, they got it to within 14. It was interesting for a minute, but there just wasn't enough firepower, and they could not slow the Cavs down. Cleveland got into the paint at will and got a bunch of open three-point attempts, ran all over the Wolves in transition. Not a game you want to write home about if you're the Wolves. We'll break the whole thing down over at Locked On Wolves.
If Aaron Rodgers wants to continue his illustrious NFL career, it will have to be somewhere not New York, at least not with the Jets. Jay Glazer reporting that Rodgers met with the Jets and the Jets told him, we are moving on. John Butchko from Locked On Jets joins me now. And John, I'm not sure this was the surprising outcome as we sit here today. But this is a stark contrast from the way that this all started 2 years ago this time.
Absolutely. And I think by any measure, this move was a complete failure. I think when you compare the expectations that were set out when the Jets made this move versus the results they got, I mean, there was just a huge gap. The Jets were talking as though they were a Super Bowl contender. And I mean, 2023, Rodgers missed the whole season with an injury, but 2024, they were talking about being a Super Bowl contender again. And they were just 5-12. I mean, let's be honest, they were out of the playoff race by the middle of October. This was just a disaster of a season. This era did not go well. And this was a move that I think needed to be made. Now, the one thing I will say is that the Jets have had a habit of not making the obvious move at many points in their recent past. So, yeah, I'd say it's the obvious move, but I was actually, as obvious as this move was, I was actually encouraged by the new regime because there are so many points in the recent past where the Jets have made the opposite of the obvious move and then sold it as like as a logical decision. So I think that this had to happen. I think, you have a new regime in place, you have a new head coach, you have a new general manager, you're trying to set a new culture, and Aaron Rodgers is not the guy you want at the quarterback position after 2 years where everything's been built around Aaron Rodgers, where there's probably a less loaded way to say this, but Aaron Rodgers has been bigger than the team the last 2 years. And you have Aaron Glenn coming in, trying to instill a new culture here, trying to rebuild this thing from the ground up. Aaron Rodgers is not the quarterback for that sort of situation.
It may be loaded, but also maybe accurate, at least in the way that the Jets operated over the last 2 seasons. So if you're going to reset everything, and I think this signals, hey, we have some talent on this team that we like. You bring in Aaron Glenn, but we're starting this from scratch then. Where do you go from here at the quarterback position?
I think you're going to be looking at like a veteran reclamation kind of guy. I think it'll be someone like Justin Fields, Daniel Jones in that area. I think like what you're looking at is the Jets, as you mentioned, the Jets actually do have some talent here. Their offensive line's actually pretty decent for the first time in about a decade. You have Garrett Wilson at wide receiver. You have Breece Hall at the running back position. I don't think Devontae Adams is going to be back, but despite that, you do have some pieces on this offense. I think maybe what you look to is you look to the model that you've seen across the league with other teams. I mean, a couple of former Jets quarterbacks, Geno Smith in Seattle or Sam Darnold in Minnesota, or not as good of an example because he had success in Cleveland, but Baker Mayfield resurrecting his career in Tampa Bay. I think that you hope that the new offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand, who was imported from Detroit, installs a good system. And maybe the pieces are there to find somebody who has had ability, but maybe hasn't been in the right situation and try and revive their career that way. I don't think the Jets are going to draft anybody because they're sitting 7th overall. They're not going to be in Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward territory. So I think your best opportunity is to try kind of a reclamation sort of project. And the other aspect of this is, like a lot of Jets fans are saying, well, they're not going to be as good as Aaron Rodgers. I don't think people really appreciate the extent to which Aaron Rodgers has declined. If you look at like his statistics last year, they're kind of like the same as Russell Wilson's in Pittsburgh, or even like Kirk Cousins is in Atlanta, there wasn't that big of a difference. And, while those guys are still probably among the top 32 quarterbacks in the league and could start somewhere, they're not, he's not really the impact guy he was, not even really close to being the impact guy he was in Green Bay. Because look, if he was 90% of the quarterback he was in Green Bay, like half the league would be trying to sign him. Yeah. And it's not really clear like how many teams are going to be that interested in it. But if there aren't going to be that many teams that are interested in Rodgers, if there are any.
Well, if he were 90% of the guy he was in Green Bay, he'd probably be staying in New York. That's the reality, I think. I did want to ask you that quickly here, John. If Rodgers wants to continue to play, and that was the report that we got on Monday, that he does likely want to continue to play, where makes sense that could also want him to be there?
I think the question with Rodgers is he okay with just being the quarterback? Because, we've seen with the Jets the last couple of years that, they've brought in, they brought in his favorite offensive coordinator. They pretty much brought in the personnel he wanted. If he's okay with just being the quarterback and, he doesn't have any more control and, he's got to learn the system that's in place. I think there are teams that would make sense. I mean, I think Pittsburgh could be a spot for him. I don't think Russell Wilson may not be coming back there, and they have some good pieces in place, and that might be a spot where bringing in Devontae Adams could really help the team out. So I think that might be the logical spot. There aren't really that many though, because I think most teams are either have their guy in place or are looking for a longer term solution. There aren't a lot of teams that are looking for like a 1 year guy to kind of be a stopgap. So I think that's the one that would come to mind. There are other teams where maybe they could use an upgraded quarterback, but they're not close to winning. So with the Pittsburghs, but the question is like, is Rodgers going to be willing to like kind of take a step back? Is he going to be willing to reduce the drama? Because if he's not, if he wants to, continue what happened with the Jets or near the end of Green Bay, where he was obviously happy, where he didn't have as much say as he wanted, I don't know that there's a spot for him.
You can stay up to date on the New York Jets all year long by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Jets on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, could the Titans really be a good landing spot for Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers is going to be a free agent sooner rather than later. Locked On Titans host Tyler Rowland wants Rodgers in Nashville.
Aaron Rodgers is available. To me, he is at the top of the list of veteran quarterbacks. He's at least tied with Derek Carr for me. And I think that Rodgers makes a ton of sense for the Titans. And here's why. First, let me know down below, yes or no to Aaron Rodgers. Number one on the list. It's a veteran bridge quarterback, which the Tennessee Titans need desperately. I will continue to say, even if the Tennessee Titans draft a rookie quarterback, they are going to bring in a veteran bridge quarterback, which will be slated to be the starter. Mike Borgonzi came from Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. Chad Brinker came from Green Bay. They have a long history of sitting rookie quarterbacks, even if they're drafted in the first round. So even if the Titans get a rookie quarterback, I think that Brian Callahan specifically, but everyone in the organization would still want a veteran quarterback. And free agency happens in March. The draft happens in April. The Titans are going to add a veteran quarterback to this roster a month before the draft even happens. So which veteran quarterback in that case is the best fit? And again, Aaron Rodgers to me. Number one, who's a better player between Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers? I think you could make the argument for either one of them at this stage. Aaron Rodgers, obviously not at his best point in his career, but Aaron Rodgers last season had 28 touchdowns and over 3,000 yards and only 11 interceptions. Like Aaron Rodgers' washed season with the Jets would be one of the best quarterback seasons in Tennessee Titans history. So let's not pretend here like Aaron Rodgers is so bad at football right now that he wouldn't be an upgrade over Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. Not only that, but the financial aspect. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to command a huge salary. Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be getting a multi-year contract from the Tennessee Titans. It'll be a 1 year cheap contract where the Titans don't have to take a ton of financial risk into the future.
There's an old song, and the lyric is, you can't always get what you want. I'll save you the singing. But if you try sometime, you just might find you get what you need, right? This is not it for the Tennessee Titans. You don't want Aaron Rodgers to come in and spread his unique brand of toxicity in Tennessee. Nashville it's a great place to go hang out, to go have fun. the bachelorette capital of the world. You don't want Aaron Rodgers there, spoiling all that fun. It's interesting because when I was talking to John Butchko, our pal from Locked On Jets earlier, and he said, the question is Aaron Rodgers okay with just being the quarterback? What I thought he meant was, is Aaron Rodgers okay with just being the quarterback, or would he rather compete for Super Bowls? If he just wants to play quarterback, yeah, being in Nashville where he has his property in Tennessee, look, it seems like it'd be fun. They have a chance to compete for nothing next year with a coach that he's not going to trust, that he's not going to care about. He can't bring his buddies. They can't pay Devontae Adams. He would be miserable in Tennessee. I understand Tyler's argument. A bad Rodgers season would be an all-time great Tennessee Titans season. That's true of like the Bears too. But you need Rodgers engaged. You need him happy to get anything close to the best version of him. This is not it. The Steelers make the most sense, which I guess just means it probably won't happen knowing Aaron Rodgers. Welcome to Tennessee, I guess. And finally, Rob Manfred checks his email, or at least he wants us to think that. Following a meeting with the owners, Manfred spoke with the media and said he's been getting emails from fans that are concerned over Major League Baseball's lack of a salary cap. The emails cite the spending spree by the LA Dodgers as a major concern. Are we to believe that the commissioner of baseball is running the sport based on public opinion, that the owners and players will enter what looks to be a lockdown, drag-out fight for the economic structure of the game based on a few emails? Rob Manfred, famously with his pulse of the fans? Okay, sure. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, so who's the best basketball team in the SEC? How about in college basketball? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Go to our video on demand. Click on sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.